Hello, and we are back here on the Wild West podcast. My name is Richie Riche. Over here to my left or right, depending on which way you are facing that screen, is the real Alex Givens. You can catch his content on the Lightning Fast Fantasy podcast on Coach Defense's channel, Locked Down Defense. And you can also catch his articles on, what's that place again there? Airhead Attic?
Sí.
Pardon me? Sí?
Yes. Yes.
No habla español. Just me Richard.
You knew what I knew.
Down below here is the one, the only. He's back, Captain Jack Rackham.
The diabolical.
You can catch him on all the times now. Hopefully, back on the YouTubes on the Captain Jack Rackham channel. Follow him on all the different places and all the different socials. Good to be back, Captain. Love to have you back on the show. That the four of us are now back in action. This is great. And
guns out too.
Oh yeah, yeah. And
ready.
And then we got Robert repping the Chargers. Robert, thank you for joining us here again as the staple Chargers fan representing the powder blue and goldish.
Repping the royal blue today.
Yeah.
They ain't wearing powder blue. I'm so freaking. Oh, and I'm gonna try to watch my ass today. Mad today. Get with the intro, Richie, so I can rant for about 5 effing minutes, and then we can do this.
I guess, yep, Cap is back.
Cap is back.
and in case you had a doubt that he is back or isn't, he has just put to bed all doubt. He is back.
That's right.
So, Captain, how was?
Can I go now?
I'm back.
How you doing?
Okay. First off, I want to thank all my shipmates here on the panel. Let me see, since I'm out of practice. That guy, and that guy. See, I have to remember it's backwards, okay? Because I am out of practice. That are here. I want to say thanks to them. But man, they got some crap coming to them. Not a lot of him, because his team sucks. Okay, so we've already established. Just wait, mother. Okay, just wait. Okay,
Bring it.
Okay, my God. So first off, before we get into that, I gotta send love to Richie because he's the only one on this panel who's ever heard of "Been Caught Stealing" by James Addiction, because we do pregame, and I heard a dog bark at the beginning of pregame, and I said, "Hey, it reminded me of James Addiction. Been caught stealing once when I was," and I'm doing this song, and the freaking dunderheads, the young,
dunderheads.
Sorry, I wasn't born earlier.
Hey, do you know? Have you ever heard of like songs like "Strangers in the Night" or things like that? There are old songs that you can know. You've heard of an old song called "The Star Spangled Banner," right? That's only been around for. Okay,
give me a break.
You. Okay, I didn't say it.
Actually, Captain, the one thing you're missing about that particular song, and then we'll shimmy shake on over to AFC West stuff and football things. That particular song was re-released in 2006 after it was remastered in 2006, which is why it has remained in such high popularity, because it was originally released in 1990, and it was hugely popular when it was released in the 90s.
I wasn't born yet.
I had a decade to go. Sorry.
And
okay, were you around in 2006 when it was remastered? Shut up!
I was listening to 50 Cent then. Get rich or die trying, son.
Well, I was never a fan of only rubbing 2 quarters together. I always preferred loonies, and just bigger change and bigger bills. So I'll leave the small change to you. But anyways, with regards to what we got going on the show today, guys, we have some pretty interesting stuff to go over. We got the rule changes that I think are going to be it's going to be some interesting discussion. I have
one thing, and this is quick. I'm still gonna fucking sorry. I'm still gonna go after you guys, But the reason why, because we had the Suns Out, Guns Out, I don't want to have the ladies all aflutter in growing up. I'm not saying it's great because I have friggin' like the boobs on the guy here. Clint Eastwood. Okay, folks, any which way but loose. Okay, for the young people, the old every which way but loose. Remember the old orange, kind of like that shirt above the orangutan that he was in that movie? I have orangutan boobs if I don't have my shirt on. Okay, so in order to keep people's lungs in,
You don't have your man's ear.
There you go. I don't have
man's ear.
I got it. I saw that episode the other night. So for everybody's amazement, I would make sure. Yeah, Clyde, Anna knows. I have this song. That's why it's Suns Out, Guns Out. This is always in around here. I got my emergency shorts, so I don't have my balls hanging out for everybody to see. So I am dressed. So now we can go into the rest of the diatribe. And yes, don't wait. I got 2 months worth of crap to get out. There you go. Thank you, Richie. Go ahead, sir.
So we got some interesting news going on. The rule changes, I think, are going to be some interesting discussion. You're in Florida. How are you so pale?
No, my arms. I had a farmer's tan. I had a farmer's tan because I was at driving school outside, and I was dark like George Hamilton. George Hamilton. I had a George Hamilton tan on my face and my arms. After I graduated driving school, I have proof. It's in Instagram and Facebook. And since I've been inside since then and other things, right there, it's getting. But I had tan. So you know what, Richie? By the way, F you Canuck. Okay, so screw you and your whiteness.
So, somehow up here I made it more tan than you, and I have no idea how that happened.
Well, you asked. I got 2 months to catch up. 2 months. Shut up and go ahead. Rules suck.
So we've got the rule changes, which I think are going to bring out some more of that sort of reaction, because I know I have a similar reaction to much of it.
Yes.
The only thing that I don't mind is the return to kind of the XFL kickoff rule, but we'll get into that a little bit later. I don't mind that, but the other nonsense I think has absolutely I'm livid. Anyways, we'll wait for that segment to go into that in a little bit more detail. But we're also going to get into our running back rooms across our teams here, what they are now, what we may see kind of either post-draft or even, post like the post-draft free agency that normally always happens. So that'll be an interesting kind of discussion as well. And but we are going to kick off with the third and final part segment, if you will, of the show. We're going to kind of bring that one to the forefront. And that is just a quick little run around in terms of what we have going on in terms of news across the division. Alex, we're going to start with you, although a recent signing from my Denver Broncos has also come out today as well, with a wide receiver signing who's going to fill out a little bit in the wide receiver room. So that'll be an interesting discussion. But we called it last week, guys, a bit of prophecy on my part. I'm not going to lie. Angelo, thank you for the text, my man. By the way, shout out to Angelo, who held down the fort in Captain's absence. If we can all just give him a round of applause. He was excellent. Great content, great information. Angelo, reach out. We'll chat later. But with regards to the show, highly recommend you go back and watch it. If you all remember my segment from last week, guys, I said...
And Bishop, I saw that. And Bishop, he wasn't here, but Bishop was chiming in too. So I thank you for that.
Yeah. And he might have been on your channel. He was in the chat here.
Right,
but
right. He was on my channel holding it down.
Right. But in terms of the Wild Wild West last week, I called it, guys. The upper ceiling for Snead was going to be a third-round pick, simply because of the contract that had to come after that fact, and the teams that were going to be trading for him had to make that balance between getting a very good cornerback, compensation, and contract, and that trifecta there was likely going to top out at a third-round draft pick, given the competitiveness in that position and how good some of these young corners are coming out of college now because it's such a passing league. You know, we all forget that wide receivers are coming out more polished than ever. Quarterbacks are coming out, generally speaking, more polished than ever. And as a result, cornerbacks, because it's such a heavy passing league, are also coming out more polished than they ever have. And so you're getting a pretty solid bevy of talent, even in the later rounds. And Alex, over to you, and let's get your take on the Snead trade and all that stuff, and go right into those details.
Yeah. So as you just alluded to, he was pretty much moved for a third-round pick, and not even a third-round pick in this draft, a future third, which I think goes to show just, kind of like we talked about last week, how, full the market was for him. And I mean, once you saw the news, 4 days after the trade of how much money he got, now you kind of understand why, that it was only a third-round pick, because, I mean, good for Snead, but, goes to Tennessee and signs a 4-year, $76.4 million contract with 55 guaranteed, and becomes I think the third highest paid corner in the league. So, like I said, previously, good for him to go get, his bag somewhere, and good for the Chiefs as well to, not just let him go get that money as a free agent, and utilize the tag to at least get something back. Curious to see what KC does now, how aggressive they are at replacing Snead, whether it be in the draft or, I don't know, trade or whatever. But I do think that this means, McDuffie is now CB1 and kind of steps more into that Snead role than playing the slot nickel role that he was. And I mean, he's a first team All-Pro corner. So, I think that if they don't have that behind Snead, I don't think KC lets Snead walk this year, but from a fan perspective, at least glad that they got something back in return. And, that it just wasn't feasible to keep Chris Jones and Snead. I mean, it would have lined up, obviously, for this 1 year with the tag if they had to, had to play on it, or he had to play on it. But in the long run, just it wasn't going to be able to, keep both with the future contracts coming up. So, good on the Chiefs to get him somewhere with a team that was willing to pay him and get something back. Of course, would have liked to see something more. I mean, who was it? Angelo that said first round pick for?
Oh yeah. The 10th pick.
Yeah,
the 10th overall pick.
No.
Was it 2?
He mentioned trading 2 firsts.
No way.
He go back and watch. I'm pretty sure he was saying the Vikings trading the higher first and then the lower round first.
Explain yourself now.
But
yeah, I mean, it's crazy just how wide of it, because I mean, he was obviously an elite corner this last year. I mean, shut down receivers in games. And it was just interesting, how wide of an array there was of news of, I think teams are looking for this. Colts were in on it. Colts are really wanting to get a corner, and then it just kind of fizzles out and comes down to essentially a third round pick next year. I mean, they swapped 7ths, but it's apples to oranges comparison. Yeah. Hey, we got Pacheco in the 7th, so I mean,
that's true.
Things could happen, but I think just like I said, long run, good to get him somewhere that would pay him and get something back in return, rather than playing out this year on the tag and going through the process again, or just having that loom over in the locker room going into the season of am I going to get paid if I play well again or not? And good for Snead to go get his money. So
yeah, we talked about it too last show that what you could possibly get for him, or if it was worth just keeping him on the roster. And I think you guys ultimately made the right move. The old Belichick saying you want to move on from a player a year before they fall off. So I think I think the Chiefs were really smart to trade him to the Titans, because I don't know what the Titans are doing, but I really am
Dude,
not
they are
like
spending, man.
they are spending
90
everything.
mil to Ridley.
And I'm just like
55 to Sneed.
And I'm is Will Levis really that guy that you want to invest all this capital on him? But hey, you know what? The Chiefs stay fleecing people, so that third round pick could be top 5 in the third round by next year.
Well, and who knows? And maybe they're thinking of, it didn't really matter when the pick was, as long as they had a, day 2 pick,
right.
so that they have ammo to move up. So the fact that it wasn't, because I don't know Brett Veach, but looking at his track record of his moves, you would have thought you would be a little more aggressive to get something, in this year, if it was more about just having the picks. And I think the fact that it was future is more of like, well, that's something that if push comes to shove, I can use that to move up for this one guy. Or worst case, we got it next year. So that's why flexibility in terms of the draft strategy and flexibility with cap space. So there's plenty left on the table to refill the rest of the holes in the roster, and kind of don't have this looming over him. So it sucks to see him go, because he obviously great corner, but
it's your one position that you can
doesn't work. Yeah,
it's the one position you guys replace pretty well, I'd say.
Well, the other thing is the Chiefs have done particularly well getting reasonable replacements at the corner position later in the draft, like 3rd, 4th round picks. You guys have generally hit on those, and also the important piece is you've hit on those with this current front office.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's the underlying part of the statement,
that's the
right?
Stigma there.
Yeah. Like that's like the important bit, right? Is that with this current group that you have in your front office, you have consistently, generally done well in that 3rd and 4th round of getting solid, like legitimately solid corners, which is a great thing. And then the other thing to keep in mind is, next year in the draft is looking fairly good for defensive linemen. And it would be in your best interest to backfill a decent or reasonable D lineman to kind of learn under Chris Jones.
For sure.
And he's already said, I want to be here, because he's done you guys a solid with kind of the way he's structured his contract. And, he obviously got paid as well, which is, it's a win-win for everyone involved. But I think that he's that guy, right? He's the guy that's like, I'm going to retire a Chief, and therefore I'm going to do the right thing by the team. So I think you can rely on him to kind of be that true leader in the locker room and actually teach guys. Like, I literally think he's that guy. And it sucks that he didn't leave your team to go elsewhere because, he is that guy. So
I'm all for it.
God.
Yeah. But you guys opted to stay with the right guy. Like, you do not.
Well, we talked about that at length, right?
Yeah.
I think, McDuffie being there certainly helped make the decision better.
I feel like it's easier. You don't make that decision to let Sneed go if you don't have McDuffie, versus you look at who else you have on the D line, and Karlaftis is good, but he ain't Chris Jones, and nobody else on that D line. That's very true.
Yeah. So just one other piece of AFC West news that I'm aware of. I didn't see anything for Captain's Raiders or your Chargers come out today in the news articles and stuff, or even just in the last couple days. You guys, we've all kind of made our moves, and just some recent ones just for my Broncos, and obviously the Sneed news there for
Reynolds, baby.
So we got Reynolds from the Lions. He's been a reliable wide receiver for the Lions. I think he's going to do all right.
It reminds me of Tim Patrick.
Well, that's
like the Lions, Tim Patrick.
Tim Patrick restructured and took a discount to stay with the Broncos this year. Reynolds came to us now on a 2-year deal. So you basically have 2 Tim Patricks on the roster, and that's exactly what we need.
Angelo throws a jab at us, but it doubles down. We made their trade sound better.
I know. Come on, 2 firsts for Sneed.
When he's right, he's going to make sure he calls you on it. That's all he's saying.
Yeah.
I know.
So
I was just.
I actually think that that Reynolds is going to be an interesting addition. I think he's I kind of call him like a Sean Payton type of player, right? He kind of does a mixed bag of everything. Sean Payton needs that versatility in order to run his scheme, and that's why we were talking last show, and I'll kind of reiterate some of it for those of you who are joining us and weren't here last week. Thank you for being here today. Sean Payton needs some variety within the wide receiver room, but he ultimately needs guys that can do certain things. He needs guys that are sharp and crisp route runners. He needs a couple guys with speed, but ultimately he needs the do-it-all wide receiver as being the majority of his wide receiver room. Little Jordan Humphrey, Tim Patrick, now Reynolds. There's a mold. There's a reason why he's looking for that, because they can run block, they can pass catch, and they can run a route tree. And that's really
and they don't run their friggin' mouths like Jerry Jeudy with little production.
I'm sorry, who?
Yeah, he's just a jag.
He who should not be named.
Judy.
He's just a jag.
Yeah, I have no idea who that is. He's not on my team anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, you know who he is.
Whoever gets the impression, because again, Rich, you ought to get this too. Again, this is an old thing. Judy.
Oh yeah.
Alex,
so anyways,
you got anything?
You guys are so friggin' uncultured.
Are you saying? What did you say, Jody?
No. Judy. Okay.
Like Judge
Look
Judy?
it up. Look it
What is
up.
that from?
Shut up! You're young and stupid. Look it up.
If I type in Judy, it's
God.
just gonna bring up Judge Judy.
That's what
No, it's one of those old. It's one of those old skits.
It's not a skit. Never mind. Even you don't.
Let's just get back to football. You lost me with this one, Cap.
Oh my God. Oh.
That accent and stuff for me was reminiscent of the old Python and that era, because that's where I had that. That's where I had that peg. That they actually did that, by the way.
Is this from A.C. Griffith?
No.
Well, tell us.
Just tell me then. I literally just Googled Judy.
Okay. It's an impression of Cary Grant talking. Okay. Cary Grant. Look him up, since you guys don't know who Cary Grant is.
I'll go further down this wormhole. Who's Cary Grant?
I knew it was coming. That's why I said look him up. Okay. Cary Grant. That's
all right, I'm looking this up.
Oh my God, you guys are so friggin' young, man. Oh my goodness.
Sorry, apologies.
He died
I wasn't
in
born.
1986.
1986. Oh, come on, man.
I was alive when he was around. Shut up.
Let me go ahead and get mad at my father for not making me be born earlier. Sorry about that. Not my fault.
Get mad at yourself for not being cultured and know great stuff from before you were born, okay?
Oh, he was.
I know.
Baby Should Listen. It's a great movie.
Yeah. So that's it for the AFC West news and the rundown on it.
Yep.
Moving swiftly
I
along.
why I had to go get something to drink.
Moving swiftly along. Let's kind of move into something that I think we can all generally think is going to be an interesting / positive that came from these new rule changes, and that is the kickoff rule. I'll kind of start with kind of my general take on it, and then kind of you guys can all chime in. We'll start with you, Captain, just in terms of what your thoughts are on it. They are adopting what is effectively the XFL kickoff, which will make some changes to what we generally see. So as an example, what we saw from the kickoffs this past season was just a whole lot of kick through the end zones, just because it was almost not beneficial for teams to try and allow a kick return, just because it wasn't going to be beneficial to them. It was too big of a risk. Now we're seeing kind of a rule that actually is going to have two implications. And this is one that I don't know if a lot of people have thought through. They are starting very, very narrowed and tight, and they're starting near the team receiving's side of the field to make that kick. This is going to have two implications. One, you're going to see a lot more emphasis on attempting to allow a kick return to occur. So that's one. And then two is I think you're going to start seeing a huge shift and call it shimmy shake, if you will, of the bottom end of the roster. And what I mean by that is what you would typically see in special teams players is you'd have safeties and corners and some linebackers, not many, but some, and a couple tight ends sometimes that would play special teams roles. I think what this new kickoff rule is going to do is it's going to allow teams to carry more D ends, more D tackles, and that sort of thing, is because you're starting in more of like a blocking style scenario where you're actually going to be more of like the wall that's trying to block the other team. There's going to be, I think, a little bit more of an emphasis on certain teams, especially where they're going to start seeing the need and the benefit of carrying more D linemen, which can then in turn help them in the rotational side on the starting side of their defense. So I think you're going to see some mixing up of what you're going to see. And lastly, on the same note, I'm glad they made this rule change just because of how profound I think it's going to have as an impact on what teams do. You need to do this type of rule change prior to the draft to allow teams to adapt accordingly. So with that in mind, Captain, I'm going to throw it over to you and get your take on it.
Okay. And I know we're going to do the other rule change later, but I'm going to segue into that. This one, as stated, is a positive one for, I want to say, for actually running the ball out. Okay, because like you said, there are too many, kicks that were just going through the end zone. You'd see the guy go back and they you didn't do the hand, you're like whatever, and it's over his head. I get it. Okay, so it was boring that way, and that they were trying to do something that was good for the union for the injuries, and they had the studies where the people that were smacking each other with force. If you ever notice at the end of the movie, was it Concussion, or the one that they had about the CTE, where at the very end of the movie it showed the guy going full force and another guy going full force because they have running starts. Okay, and it is more of it's going to get the guys to prevent injuries in that regard. See, there's the dog I was talking about. For those that didn't see, he put it on mute real quick. But that was the dog I was talking about before for the song. Anyway, it's going to prevent injury. Okay, so that's a good thing. So there's going to be some like plays, and there's going to be fumbles because, again, even though that they're not going to be smacking each other with as much force, there's going to be the opportunity to go out and do something with it. So there might even be more touchdowns. If you break that wedge, you're gone, because pretty much, as Richie said, there's going to be a bunch of big uglies up there instead of safeties and linebackers that can run. And once you break that wedge, the guy can be gone. There were 3 no votes on this. 3 no votes. I love the fact that the Raiders had the no vote on that. They had the Raiders, the Niners, and I think it was the Packers. Okay, because it's a very different change. But it's a one rule, a 1 year, one rule thing. We'll see what happens. They actually postponed the vote for a day because they wanted to make sure in the straw vote they weren't quite there for the amount of teams that they had it. But actually, when all is said and done, only three folks voted against it. So we'll see what happens on that. I like the fact that it'll inspire. Like you said, it'll change rosters. Like you said, it won't be as many fleet-footed dudes out there that can beat those extra, like the sixth linebacker, that was on the roster, or the fifth defensive back that was on the roster that was there for special teams. It's going to make changes there, so we'll see how it occurs. But I'm not even going to go into that other crackpot rule because I know we're waiting on that.
Yeah,
but I like this one. I like. in the fact that it's good for fans, it's good for the players, and I think it's probably going to be with us from now on. Like I said, it's a smaller divide. The guys hitting each other, action there. You can't touch. I don't like the fact that nobody can friggin' really move. I want to see them like move a little bit before the ball either touches the turf or the guy catches it. That I think is the only downside from it. Let's have some action beforehand, because it's going to be like, you're just ready to hit somebody. So that's it. But go ahead. I'm done with my little rant on that one.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the rule change. I think obviously before kickoffs kickoffs are such an essential part of the games. Special teams in and of itself is such a big part of the game. And I felt like we were kind of robbed of it as fans because, like you said, it was just a lot of this and letting the ball go over your head. And I mean, even if the ball was in play, people weren't returning it because, why would you when you're going to get a free 25 yards to just, do this or take a knee? So I think it was a needed change. And I hope this is a rule that maybe after a year they kind of decide, yeah, we want to stick with this. If the fans like it and, if the injuries go down, obviously that's the biggest thing that, why they wanted to change this rule. I think it would be really good for the league. And yeah, just to say again, Rich, yeah, that was an aspect of it I really didn't even think about. The roster changes are going to be your typical special teams guy is not going to be your speedster, your Matthew Slaters. Those aren't going to be the new breed of special teams. We're going to get a lot more tight ends. I wouldn't be surprised if you see a lot more teams running a 4 tight end roster. Maybe even some like extra D linemen. But yeah, I think all in all, this rule was a great rule change. I think we all feel pretty equally about the other ones, so we'll get into that later. But yeah, this one, I think they got it right with this one.
Alex, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I agree that this was, I think, a good and needed rule change. I think overall it just makes special teams, especially kickoffs, more relevant, as we've all kind of alluded to in our views of the change. Outside of this current era, I'd say the most exciting time as a Chiefs fan in my lifetime was, around the Dante Hall, Devin Hester era, where teams had elite kick returners that you just never knew when something was going to pop. And the game slowly faded away from that, with kickers getting better and teams just deciding there's really no point. We'll just start at the 25. And at least this, I think, invites more opportunity for returns. And I kind of like that it's such close quarters. It's kind of like a hybrid. I wouldn't say Oklahoma drill, but like a spider drill, where it's like running back climbs the ladder and everyone's one-on-one with someone. And so, it's I think going to just make special teams and kickoff more exciting. And we've already seen teams kind of make roster moves with, I think, this in mind, seeing Cordell Patterson, go to Pittsburgh. And I think we're going to see teams kind of emphasize getting someone that is experienced at returning kicks now that it's kind of been brought back to the forefront of the game. So I'm excited to see how it happens, how it plays out. But I think we're going to see a lot more kick return highlights, like we used to back when Devin Hester and Dante Hall and those guys played. I mean, dude, that was an exciting time. That was sweet.
A lesser known guy actually played for the Broncos. He was like a tiny dude by the name of Brendan Holiday. Now,
dude.
He had small hands.
Like 98 speed.
Yeah, but that dude could book it.
But see, that's the same era though. Like every team, got some tiny shifty speedster, and they're like, all right, you're gonna be a wide receiver, but we might throw you a bubble once a game, but otherwise, you're just returning these.
Yeah.
Josh Cribbs on the Browns, he was another one too.
Yeah, but
everyone had one.
I think what you're gonna get now is, these are just my general predictions and what we're gonna see here. On special teams, generally speaking, you're going to have a lot more D linemen. I also think you're going to have, in my opinion, some of these guys that were
linebackers.
some of these guys that were never valued coming out of the draft. So guys like Philip Lindsay, guys like your dude there that you guys just let go. Mike, I forget his name.
Me?
The running back.
Oh, Eckler, yeah.
Eckler. He's another Colorado guy.
Yep.
I gapped on his name and I had it like just on the tip of my tongue.
I was wondering. I was like, "You talking about me?" I was
Yeah, you. Right.
Yeah,
I'm
I was
looking
like,
at you and I'm expecting
what
you.
did you say of me for?
But like the tweener dudes that are at the running back position that you always thought had a proper role in the NFL, but they were never really utilized once Belichick moved away from guys that were like that. Because Belichick really brought some of those dudes into the league and
talked about that last week too.
Yeah. And so what are those guys going to do now? Well, I think they're going to be your kick returners.
Yep.
Those are going to be the guys that can bounce between the tackles, can do exactly what Captain just said earlier, which is, bust through that kind of small seam that gets kind of created between the bigger guys or the slower guys. The corners and the safeties are going to be kind of more evenly matched when it comes to trying to tackle them, and then to the house. And Alex, back to your point, back with Devin Hester, that was the play. Like that was the highlight reel. Like that was the highlight reel.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but he's not in the Hall of Fame, and Devin Hester is. Shut up! I don't hear no more crap from Kansas City smugness.
But
he was good, by the way.
Yeah.
but that I think is the type of thing you're going to see a lot more of is the bigger guys making into special teams now. I think one less kind of safety and one less corner on each team is going to be common. Robert, I do agree. I think that 4 tight ends are going to be a little bit more common on rosters now.
I think you'll see deeper linebackers too.
Yeah.
And you're gonna but again, you're gonna see the tweeners. Like this is the important piece. It's the guys
tranquil type guys.
Yeah, those guys,
Yeah.
like those guys. The guys that are kind of between safety and linebacker are gonna have a better spot on rosters now. Like they're gonna have a spot. And lastly, guys, something that we never spoke about, but I do think is important. And again, I think this is an interesting take, Robert. This is probably another thing that you're like, I hadn't thought about that either, which is
he doesn't think about a lot of crap. He's young.
Hey. At one point in time, you and I were there too, Captain.
2 months. Shut up and take it. 2 months.
Hey,
I know it was a long time ago.
Just boil it up for him.
But look, at one point, Captain, you and I were where Robert is now, and we have to give.
I've never been where Robert was now. I came out with intelligence in my 20s.
Well, clearly not. You're a Raider fan.
Oh, just wait, mother. I got you coming.
All right. So, as I was saying, Captain, some of your best Raiders that have come through your franchise made their start this way, and the same thing with my Broncos. They came through special teams, and having special teams become important again, because for many years now, 4 or 5 years at least now in the NFL, special teams play has been downplayed and downgraded a little bit based on kind of the rules and what they've done. Both just to prevent injuries, but then also not to correct anything, which is, typical NFL, is now we're seeing something come back that can bring back that side of the ball, that third phase of the game that we all enjoyed when, the Hesters and Holidays of the world were playing on rosters. And I think this is definitely something that can do that again. So you'll get running backs that will kind of come up through special teams again. You'll get linebackers and defensive ends and tight ends that make, cut their teeth in the special teams room again, which, has been really not happening there very much recently. And I think you're going to start see that path being a path to a 53-man roster and eventually starters for some guys. TD for the Denver Broncos, that's how he came in. Like he's now a Hall of Fame running back, and that's how he came in.
Thank you. And I knew you were going to get there eventually. Terrell Davis was the special teams guy that performed in his training camp, was so fantastic in that he was almost going to be dropped from the roster, but because he did special teams
Do you know who else was?
You got to stay on the spot.
Do you know who else was?
Shannon
Shannon
Sharpe.
Sharpe.
Yep. Seventh round draft pick.
That's how he cut his teeth. He went out and was told by the coach, like, you go out and you do the best you can do, and he killed it.
If he cut his teeth, I don't know why he still has horse teeth. So I that's another thing as well. I don't know why him and Elway. You can't really see
Elway I'll give you. Elway I'll give you, but Sharp has got some pretty shiny pearly whites. And
they're horse teeth.
Uncle Shay?
They're horse.
Hey, don't disrespect Uncle Shay like that.
So, anyways, when you look at these guys, I think this is what the league is going in. They're moving in this direction. They're moving in a way where special teams matter again. I'm here for it.
Special players.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here for it.
Yeah.
And now we move on.
I'm on the special team staff.
Thank you, brother.
That's offensive.
I actually think that the movie quote you're looking for is, "Have you seen my baseball?"
I thought you were gonna go in. Hey, you guys.
Pizza Frank.
That's great. But I really do think this is where you're going to see a resurgence in special teams, the emphasis on special teams, and frankly, even with the old rules, special teams would often make or break certain games. This is like cranking that up to 11, in my opinion. I think this is going to be this is going to be one of those things where I think they are going to keep this rule, just in my opinion.
Yeah.
And then I think you're going to start seeing GMs and front offices go through complete overhauls when their team sucks on special teams, and then the owners are going to look at them and say, "What, did you not think this was going to happen?" And you're going to see complete overhauls in front offices as a result of not adapting.
We're about to see in real time who's got good special teams coaches and who doesn't.
Yeah, exactly.
This is very true.
Yeah. So I think we need to move on to the rule that everyone the rule that I think we all need to let's just put it this way. I am equally as disgusted the fact that this passed. However, we do need to tone down the 4-letter words. This is a family show. And
I've only let one slip so far.
I know, but
so far,
yeah.
So far.
Yeah. But the hip drop tackle, I really don't know what
they were thinking.
I don't know. I just don't.
Yeah.
At some point, the league needs to just say 2-hand touch or flag, because this is the problem. You're not allowing defenders to actually tackle guys, and then on top of that, what is technically deemed a hip drop? So, for example, if I'm running a guy down from behind, how else am I supposed to tackle him if I'm slightly slower and I have to dive? I only have one option, and that's a hip drop. And then the other thing that also needs to be factored in here is the one thing that we've always heard from every player for the last 6 to 7 years since the league has been making the game safer is players saying, I don't want my legs getting hit hard like that. I would prefer getting hit in the midsection because it generally does less damage to my body, and I'm less likely to have major, knee and leg injuries and ligament injuries and all that kind of stuff. And all this is going to do is cause dudes to go full speed at another guy's knee. And you're going to have, in my opinion, this is going to be the year where you're going to start seeing dudes just get killed, knee injuries galore.
It's gonna be the Gronk situation again. That's literally why his career ended as soon as it did, was because you just couldn't tackle anybody.
Hey, he called me a fat Tim Tebow, so
I'm apparently a discount. I'm a discount Ian Rappaport. So
or maybe he said out of shape.
He's got all of you guys pegged. Period. Just take it. Thank you. Then
what's Cap?
Diesel.
We need to see Cap's little
JC. Oh, he ain't coming after me. We tight. We tight. There you go.
Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much this.
Anyway,
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's. I mean, I don't know what. I understand they're trying to make the game safer, but at what point, like, football is it's not even a contact sport. It's a collision sport. Dudes are running into each other at full speed, helmet to helmet. Like, injuries are gonna happen. I understand they're trying to, like, negate as
except
many
on the
of the.
kickoff.
Except on the kickoff. I understand they're trying to lessen the injuries, but it, like you said, it's going to turn into the Pro Bowl. The Pro Bowl games are going to be the eventual NFL games because that's the direction that they're heading in. And it's
One
just
reason
sad
why I didn't
that
watch it.
yeah, well,
It was
yeah,
in
that
It
no,
was in our,
nobody
it
watches
was, it
Pro
was
Bowl.
it was an hour up the street, and I had no desire to go up an hour up the street to Orlando to go to a friggin' frisbee football game, and all they were missing was the frisbee. That's all they were missing.
Oh man.
I agree, and,
Go ahead.
that's a huge problem. What I'm trying to figure out is rule changes are meant to try to solve problems. At least they should be. I can't remember a single time prior to these rules being proposed where I heard the word hip drop ever. I literally went back. I couldn't find any mention of it anywhere where it was like, oh, that guy got hurt because of the hip drop tackle. Oh, that's so bad. Now, chop block, for example, which was taken out, that
Legit.
I totally get it, 100%. I can rattle off 5 to 6 injuries that I can recall on game, on film, saying chop block, dude got knocked out.
Yep.
Da, 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 da.
And the horse
I'm
collar.
and the horse collar is another one. Totally get all that. Like, those are, while I personally just say, leave them all in there. You're playing a contact sport, suck it up. But I totally understand that it's like, hey, look, we can still play the game and not have stuff like that. Okay. All right, fine. I will reluctantly agree. But I mean, it's at this point here. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I mean, I was convinced, like you said, I had never heard of a hip drop tackle. As far as I was concerned, a hip drop tackle was just a normal tackle. That was just how you brought somebody down to the ground. You grabbed them and you used your body weight to pull them down, because these dudes are, 250 pounds, 6'3", 6'2". I mean, these are some big boys. So yeah, that's kind of what I, growing up watching football, that was kind of the thing. So it's definitely, I know what they're trying to do, but this is the worst way to go about it. I feel like they're attacking something that didn't need to be attacked, something that was good the way it was. And like you said, players wouldn't, I never heard any players complain about it. I see some former players going out talking like, oh yeah, hip drop tackles are the equivalent to like taking somebody out from behind. I'm like, but first of all, if you're That's good. That's good.
Hip hop tackle.
Yeah.
What's that? Ban it.
No, I actually think that was just Goodell. He was trying to be cool, the hip dad in the room, and it all went wrong.
Goodell needs to stop, man. He's
man.
Man.
Can we just fire his ass already? Can we?
Yeah.
Please.
I
Please.
want to. And what's crazy though? He's not even the worst commissioner in sports, so that should really tell you something.
This is true.
For real.
This is true. There is worse.
Okay.
Just when you did, like, there is worse.
There is worse.
I am curious as to your thoughts on this new rule, above and beyond what we've said. What do you think this is going to do for the game? What do you think you're going to see as a result of this? And do you see this rule staying?
I'm going to answer the last one first. It's going to stay, and it's screwed up. Okay, it's going to stay. It's screwed up, and it's unfortunate, but they're this. Now, for my second obscure movie reference, okay, Okay, get ready, you schmucks who don't know anything, you younger people. Okay, the jerk with Steve Martin when he's a carny and he's giving away prizes. He says, "Hey, what can you win?" And there's a whole big thing of stuff where you can win. He goes, "Yeah, you can win from the thimble to the eraser to the little pixie doll." So it's like a little spot, and that's all this is now. Is that you see this big wide open, which is representing a human body on a football field. But now you're going to have to tackle from the thimble to the eraser to the pixie doll, because that's all you can win. It's friggin' possible. It's impossible. You can't tackle any. I thank God that these schmucks over here at least got that last reference on.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. We're good there.
Thank God. Thank God for that one. Okay, you're not as illiterate and dumb and ignorant as I thought. You're close, but you need to,
not a total lost cause there, Cap.
You're not a total schmuck, but you're really close. But anyway, there's nowhere to tackle these people. I get the horse collar. Okay, I get where when people would tackle somebody, and they would put all of their weight on on a knee or on a leg to break a leg, a la Bill Romanowski. And yes, that's for us guys. Okay. People that did that, okay, that's just dirty, but it's part of the game, unfortunately. And now you have, where are you going to tackle a guy? First off, you can't use your crown of your head. Okay, because that's out as of a couple years ago, right? And depending upon the official and the team, then you have offensive running backs being called for that crap. When you're not really lowering your head, you're getting ready to get tackled and you're getting into your shell. Oh no, that's crown of the head. So they threw that one out. I get the horse collar. It's right because you can do severe damage with that. That one I agree with. Okay, but where in the flying foxtrot are you going to be able to tackle somebody anymore? Well, you can't go after at the knees. That's the Brady rule, because you can't have a quarterback that goes down because you go after his knee. You see where I'm getting at? You're going to have to tackle somebody from the thimble to the eraser to the mixer.
Right here.
And that, right here. And
you got to make the decision instantly in the moment of play. You got to have the right of mind.
Right.
And then captain.
That's what I was looking for. Jack Kent is saying with Tony Serafazzo, and yes, may he rest in peace, flop on Rich Gannon, which is why the Raiders didn't go to the Super Bowl that year, because it's all the weight coming down. And that with Tony Serafazzo, may he rest in peace. Yes, I know his name is Siragusa, but after that play, it was always Serafazzo to me. That's what it is. There's portions of the play that was dirty. And yes, the Raiders played that way in bygone eras when Robert, who doesn't even know what a powder blue effing jersey looks like. You're talking about powder blue. I said, get a real effing jersey. You're wearing that crap blue, okay? That's been bugging me. He said it from the onset, okay? Get a real jersey and make sure that
he's got a retro on.
It is a retro.
I think what you're going to start seeing now, as you said, that narrowed strike zone, and I'm going to use a baseball reference here on purpose. So
that's good.
You're gonna be familiar with a guy by the name of Ricky Henderson playing on the baseball side of things. What he did, he's the
greatest.
Mr. October.
I'm the greatest.
I'm the greatest.
And so, no,
that's Mr.
October's Reggie Jackson.
Oh my God, yeah, that was bad.
Ricky Henderson just stole.
Oh man,
no, but you know what I said about you not being a schmuck? No, now you're over that line. You are a schmuck.
Right. So as I was saying, Captain, my whole point of this is what you're going to end up with is the Ricky Henderson version of what the NFL on the NFL side, which is you can only hit between here and here. And Ricky Henderson said, wait, my strike zone's between here and my knees. All right, I'm going to squat down to give the strike zone to be that big so that you could try to then hit that strike zone. Good luck. And that's what he was doing. So he'd squat super low when he was up to bat and make it very difficult to get into a strike zone when he was at bat. Not many players did it because it was uncomfortable, but he did. And he made a very narrowed strike zone as a result.
Okay, I got you there, buddy, but I'm going to go you one better. And I'm going to see how much you guys know history. It's baseball history, okay? Baseball history. It's the Eddie Gadel strike zone. It's the Eddie Gadel. I might be mispronouncing. It might be Goodell, but it wasn't like Roger. The Eddie and Rich he's googling it right now. I can tell by the fact that he's at the Eddie Goodell strike zone. Okay. Yeah, ref.
I'm with ref.
Yeah, ref. Yeah.
The what?
Eddie Goodell.
Who is Eddie Gadel?
Eddie Gadel.
The New York Knickerbockers.
Was a midget. Was a midget. He was a midget. And his uniform number was 1/3 or 1/4. That was his uniform number. He played in one game. He had one at bat. And the reason why they had the Eddie Goodell rule is he walked because there was no pitcher and he did. He kind of like
he hunched down too. I just saw a photo.
He's already down there.
Yeah.
He's a midget. He's a midget. Okay. So there's more history for you. Eddie Goodell, Eddie Gadel. Look it up. Okay. Pepperidge Farm remembers. I have to go back.
That's awesome.
Cookies now.
That's it. But that's it. There's only a little space. I get the Ricky Henderson, but it's even worse than that. It's a midget. It's a midget strike zone. Eddie Goodell. Look it up.
Yeah.
That's why I'm here, folks. I got knowledge.
That covers our baseball history segment.
There you go.
So, but that's exactly what I was getting at, Captain, 100%, which is you have these rules that make it so difficult to tackle, but then you can further game the system by, say, like hunching over as you're running forward or angling your body a certain way so that all of a sudden, every team that tries to tackle you is going to be violating a rule. And Alex, I hate to pick on Mahomes, but I think this is a good one. As soon as they basically made it illegal to tackle a quarterback when he might be running out of bounds, Mahomes was like, hold my beer, I got this. And he runs towards the sideline on a regular basis and then scoots up for an extra 5 because he knows that no right-minded defender is going to clock him, as they should, but they're not because they don't want the penalty. Like, this is the problem, is with every rule like this, there will be guys on the roster that are going to intentionally try to game the system. Mahomes is gaming it from the quarterback perspective, as he should. They made a stupid rule, play stupid games, win stupid pride.
Josh Allen utilizes it too.
Yep, he does. No, I'm only selecting Mahomes.
No. I'm just saying, but like we've definitely seen these rules that are curtailed from the idea of boosting offense, having higher scores because that's what the NFL thinks, sells tickets and is entertaining. So, I mean, I think, Coach and I talked about it when this rule came out, and he said this pretty clearly, to boost offense. I understand why the league tried to make that rule. But I'm kind of the position of, they're playing football. It's inherently a violent sport.
Correct.
And there are just inherently some risks involved with it that you wouldn't get in other activities. And there's got to be an assumption of risk, component to it to some degree. I don't think if we saw, the Jacksonville playoff game 2 years ago with, I can't remember who it was. I think it might've been Arden Key or someone. Hip dropped on Mahomes and he came up hobbling. That kind of, I think, started it. And then, last year, the Bengals-Ravens game, we saw, who was it, Hubbard or Wilson, hip drop two people and hurt both of them. Yeah. So you got to be watching that like, the league. I know. I agree with you, but I just could tell by the way that announcers were talking about it and Twitter's talking about it that like it was going to be addressed in some way. And I actually had a question because I'm not sure. It's my own curiosity. Are these like penalties or fines for players?
15 yards.
Yeah.
Oh, it is? Okay. Because I've heard stuff saying they were like talking about finding players to work on, reducing them doing that tackling, which I think would be the way to go rather than having it impact games. because it's like, I mean, they're already so restricted on what they can do defensively, and offensive players, like you just said, know that and take advantage of that. So, I mean, I think that only adds to that. But
15-yard spot foul plus the potential of fines is the
okay.
And
See,
it's another thing that the refs have to F up
yeah.
people's games.
Can't wait to see some blown hip drop
And, you
tackle
know,
calls.
Right. Just another tool for them to put their will on who they want, who the NFL wants to win on that script that nobody says exists. It exists. It exists. The scripting is there. You wouldn't have had Little Miss Wonderful with that a-hole that plays for the Kansas City Smugs go back to the Super Bowl if it wasn't scripted. Yes, I got lots more, mother. Okay. Anyway, like I said,
GA Patriots comment here is actually a good one in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think
But
this
I think that's why they did it, though. I mean,
that's
if
why
you
they
look
did it.
In the past few years, scoring's been down.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think this is just another thing to give defensive players something to think about when trying to make a play and, you know, boosting offense overall. I mean, that being said, though, this rule is going to stay regardless of, you know, what happens this year. I think this year we'll certainly have some shows where we talk about some BS call with that tackle. You know, but I think about a few years ago when they made the whole rule change of you can't like put your weight on a quarterback, and you know we saw a bunch of penalties early in the season, and then it kind of leveled itself out. And I mean I feel like you don't see that penalty as much as probably thought when that rule was changed. So I mean the game will adapt itself to it.
Until they need it in the last 2 minutes of a Super Bowl, like they've done the last 2 or 3 times when they need they let them play the entire time. They let them play the entire time. The Rams versus the Bengals, the Chiefs versus the Eagles, and I'm pretty sure it was this year too. But I didn't really like to watch that because I was so disgusted with it. The last 2 minutes when it's time for things to change and it's time to invoke the referee, the zebra view, is when you will see all this obscure crap. And by the way, it's probably going to be called the Mahomes rule because it was Arden Key on Mahomes that tripped him up and like, oh my God, we can't have Mahomes out of the game. Just like we have the Brady rule on the knees.
Well, and the QB rule was changed after Anthony Barr, I think, tackled Rodgers, and he was out for a good chunk of the year. I mean, I mean that's what makes the money in the league, though, is the QBs. So they're going to make rules to change that. I just think that there's parts of football that you can't really police, and this is one of them. And I get why they did it. I don't agree with all the measures they took to go about it. Like, I think, you know, making it a rule, but not one that impacts yardage in a game and fining players, I think is a good way to get them to stop just working on tackling like that. But at the same time, I mean, you see these undersized corners trying to tackle Derrick Henry. Like, how the hell else are they supposed to get him down? Like, you have to kind of just drop your weight and just like hope that he doesn't work, you know, hasn't pulled a sled that weighs that much, which he probably has. But, I mean, but it's interesting too to hear different players' takes on it. Like, you obviously saw all the defensive players like J.J. Watt and guys saying like this is stupid, make it flag football. But then, you know, I was listening to the Kelsey podcast earlier today, and Saquon was on there, and he's like, yeah, I mean, I don't think that this will impact the game that much. I mean, he's like, that tackle doesn't happen all that often. He's like, I think I've been tackled like that once in my career. And he didn't seem that upset about it. But again, you know, that's an offensive player. So he's probably like, well, I don't care.
Right. No, but he's a beneficiary of the penalty.
Yeah,
of course he's not going to be like, he's like, yes, please.
Yeah.
You know, it's like asking a banker, it's like, hey, are you pleased with the deregulation of the financial industry? Yep, sure am. It's like, oh, well, then it must not be bad. It's like, well, maybe not. You know, it's like, who's going to win? And well, Saquon's on the winning side of this, so of course he's going to be okay with it. Like, you know, it's a silly point of view to say, ask the dude that's going to be benefited of it and ask if he likes the thing. The answer is yes. Like the answer is just yes.
Yeah.
The other thing that I think is going to be really interesting here, and I'd love to hear the fans' thoughts on this here of the show. Leave your comments in the chat. We'll start throwing them up. I want the league at this point, given all of these rules that are now stacked one on top of the other, I want them to now release a comprehensive video that is released to the fans and to the players of what you can do to tackle a player.
Proper tackling technique.
I know, and I mean be specific.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to say, when you tackle a guy, you can do this, and here's how you do it, and here's what we're going to call, here's what we're not going to call. I want specifics.
Oh, it's going to be a Monty Python video where the guy goes, "Excuse me, sir, I'm going to indulge in a wrapping of your body in order to bring you down forcefully. May I do that?" And then you have a Graham Chapman or John Gleason who say, "Oh, of course, if we have to do this for the game, well, thank you, sir. I appreciate that." And then they'll kind of rub it around, and then they'll that's what it's going to be. Because it's so friggin' stupid.
Well, I mean, if you're going to go Monty Python, then you may as well go full on Monty Python, and there'll be the there'll be the Ministry of Silly Mattresses.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, look it up, you schmucks on the right that don't know shit. Okay,
we're just here, man.
Python, dude. I know the Python. All right.
So,
Eddie Gadel, Cary Grant. Okay,
Monty
we're
Python.
going back a few. Monty Python. Okay. And real jerseys, you schmuck, powder blue.
This is a real jersey.
Honestly, Robert, to be honest, if you're gonna look up either one,
Edward G. Ramsey, yeah.
I've seen Monty Python. I'm just giving Cap some shit.
Yeah, Monty Python, great.
Yeah.
So, so I mean, I'm gonna pull up.
You gotta grab the shoestrings and pull.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna. Ref, I am aware that the NFL provides tape for teams, but the problem here is that what we are seeing as a final product as fans it seems to be widely inconsistent. And I mean, I watched, as much as I didn't like his play on the field for my Denver Broncos, I tend to agree with him, and that was Justin Simmons last year. He got up on the podium in front of the world effectively and said, "You got to tell us what we can and cannot do." Like at this stage here, you got to just say, "And this is what you can do, and this is what you can't do. This is how you need to do it, and this is how you can't do it." You need that at this point, given how they're stacking these rules. And I don't care if the league is giving them tape, because we're seeing the same play in two different games. One play gets called and the other one doesn't. Make that make sense. That's my point, right? Is they have to put something out. They have to. And it needs to be consistent. And then frankly, I think the refs can use that as a point of reference, and the players can use that as a point of reference. But more importantly, the fans can also use that as a point of reference, because right now, I mean, I am more involved in NFL football than most. And there's a bunch of crap that I'm saying. They say that's a penalty, but I literally just watched that dude do it in front of a ref and it never got called. What the heck?
Oh yeah, I mean the NFL refs are obviously known for being the most consistent of any sport. So I'm sure our beautiful zebras will adapt to this rule perfectly, and I'm sure it'll be the most accurately called penalty in the league. And that's what Goodell wants to feed us, and that's what he's trying to sell. Oh man. So is it over? Are we headed towards the end times for football? Is this like the beginning of the end?
No.
We passed that a long time ago.
Yeah, I mean,
interesting.
I think we are.
That's a problem.
Yeah, it is. But I do think that we are certainly headed in a direction where they are intentionally trying to make football less aggressive. And
they're trying to make an aggressive game less aggressive.
Yeah. I look, I never said it made sense. I just said it's what they're doing.
Yeah.
And
While
And,
disguising it as making it safer. But
Yeah,
We're
exactly.
making it
And
safer, a better product for the players to project longevity, no more CTE injuries or lessen, and more points for the fan. Bull.
All that is just more money in the NFL's pockets. That's what all that says.
money.
Yep.
no, I agree with what Kaplan was saying there 100%. And at the end of the day, what they're trying to do is they're trying to showcase for Zach Wilson's target audience for dates is soccer mom is
Well,
is they're trying
his
to
mom is a MILF. I go out with Zach Wilson's mom in a hot
yes,
second.
but he's also targeting his mother's friends apparently
Right.
as well. They're in that same category.
Hot mom, hot friends, dude. Just rule of
yeah.
law right there.
What
Yeah,
a legend.
But with that in mind, what they're trying to do is they're trying to showcase to the soccer mom out there that the NFL is trying to make the game safer. It's a great game for your sons to play, even your daughters if they want to go down that route. And they're trying to kind of tart it up to make it look like it's not an actual violent sport, when in fact, you put lipstick on a pig and it's still a pig. And you gotta stop. At some point, you just have to say you either play a contact sport and deal with the potential outcomes because it's fun, you enjoy it, or in this case here, you can make a good living doing it, or you just don't play it. And I mean, my family, basically said, we play contact sports. You're going to get hurt. Put some dirt on it, sit down and shut up.
Deal with it.
Like, just deal with it. And that's my take on it. And I think at some point you just have to accept that a violent game is going to be violent. Deal with it.
Put on refs' comments because that's important as well.
This is a big
Says it,
part
and
of
that's
it.
that is from a retired NFL official. Period.
Yep. No, I think that's a fair comment, and understanding and kind of truly getting it, I think, is a big thing. I also think that as Ref has attested to, there is a block of refs that have kind of seemingly retired over these last few years.
Oh, get ref in on that. They're pushing out. Actually, this is one of the positive things is they're pushing out some of the guys that are more blatantly, and for those that are telling me that I'm full of crap, they are getting rid of a lot of the old school blatantly anti-Raider refs. Yes, they exist. And they are getting to a younger crowd that knows nothing like that guy. Okay, because they're trying to make it like where it's a everybody can win type of league, when you have that guy's team in there with 0 holding penalties in the friggin' Super Bowl. 0 in the Super Bowl. 0.
And the W. And the trophy.
It's
rigged. Well, what would have been even funnier is if you fumbled
Not in
that.
Vegas.
But
It's earned there, though.
Yeah, but that's okay there. I think the last team to beat your crap ass team was a team from Vegas in your stadium too. There you go.
Yeah.
I didn't know Angelo
That
was
was
still
your
on the
yeah. So I kind of think that we kind of all agree that this is going to have this is yet another thing to make things more complicated. This is likely going to be something that will be miscalled for sure, and or not called for sure. And by and large, because the league isn't kind of saying, and here's what you can do, and here's what you can't do, that we're going to see
from the thimble to the eraser.
Yep, exactly.
It's 2 inches right here.
Yeah.
And Robert knows all about 2 inches because his girlfriend says it all the time.
All right.
They might as well just put a
rumors
little
been...
target on the offensive players' jerseys and say, that's all. That's where you're helmet.
Yeah. So with that in mind, we're going to move on to the last segment here on the show and talk about running backs. One of my favorite position groups on a football team. I think they have a tremendous impact, one that has been, despite the fact that the position group has been devalued at the NFL level, it is still one of those position groups that seems to make or break team seasons, whether or not they have a guy or not. I'm going to throw over to you, Alex, and have you start this off to go over your running back room, your thoughts on them, and whether or not you think you're going to see some major changes.
Yeah. So, obviously Pacheco's still there, but outside of him, everyone that was in the running back room this last year is, not there. In free agency, talking about Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Jerick McKinnon specifically. They've got mostly, they have LaMichael Pirine, who's listed as RB2 right now, but he's kind of been your journeyman back. And I think mostly is a special teams contributor. Outside of that, it's practice squad guys and some guys that they signed to future contracts. So I do think that we see them make a move to add depth in the RB room, especially, we've seen a large track record of Andy Reid, using more than one running back. How Jerick McKinnon had 9 receiving touchdowns, 2 seasons ago. So, there's definitely some production that needs to be made up for in one way or another. Whether that's in this draft, because I feel like there's a good amount of promising athletes that are running backs. I'm kind of thinking of like the guy from Louisville that ran a 4.3 and is projected to, be a 5th round or later pick, but I think there's plenty of guys like that. And as I mentioned, Pacheco was a 7th round pick, so I could definitely see them. Who is the guy from
in this year's draft? Isaac Orendo?
Yeah, or whatever. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But there's plenty of guys that I think that they could look at later in the draft and are athletic enough to fit what Reed needs out of them. Looking at the free agents, there's not really a whole lot out there that I think are lucrative, and bring kind of a promising hype around them. The only one I would say I wouldn't mind being with the Chiefs is a J.K. Dobbins, who's, coming back from a torn Achilles, I think. He's had a pretty big injury history, but I think he's a perfect low risk, high reward type player. That pretty much brings the same skill set that Jerick McKinnon had, and at 25 years old, I think, plenty of tread left to, come in and be productive. And I think a role in KC or a similar team like that where he wouldn't need to be the guy. Because I think, in Baltimore, we saw him got hurt when he was, the guy, and then they found themselves, shuffling into this like committee. And KC's always somewhat been a committee approach. Granted, Pacheco's definitely kind of took over RB1 role and had that, but at the same time, they made sure McKinnon and Clyde Edwards-Helaire got involved and got carries. So, there's going to be some new blood in the RB room and new guys that will be contributing, whether that's from the free agency pool that's pretty bare, outside of
pretty empty now.
Outside of J.K. Dobbins, that's probably the only one. Maybe Kareem Hunt, but even then,
how much
J.K.
shredder
Dobbins
on those players?
Yeah. So that's why I think we definitely see him do something similar, like when they took Pacheco late, rounds 5 through 7. I think that we'll see them get some kind of athletic freak and just see what they get out of them. Another guy to look out for, at least I think, is Deneric Prince, who was a undrafted rookie last year out of Tulsa. But if you go watch his college tape, he was a beast. And he actually, there was rumblings of him making the initial 53, and he's still around, so maybe they have some promise in him with the practice squad as well. But either way, currently out of the 3 RBs they had, only one still on the roster. So I think some moves are definitely going to be made, especially now that the Snead situation's been figured out. That kind of just opens the doors to, going to sign other people, figuring out what they're going to do in the, early part of the draft, and then where they're going to build their depth, later on. But we'll definitely see some new RBs come to KC.
Yeah, I feel like I'm kind of in that same boat as you or the Chargers are at least. It's actually funny you mentioned Isaac Orendo. That was one of the picks I would love for the Chargers to go after because, like you said, he's got that 4.3 speed, dude. It literally reminds me of Pacheco. And if you can get somebody like that on your team, yeah, I would like that, please. I would happily spend a 5th, 6th, 7th round pick on him, depending where he falls. Frank Gore Jr. is another one. I've always been a big fan of former players' kids coming into the league. I always think
True.
just having that extra kind of, you grew up with it and you kind of you shake your head, but there are players that you see just having that extra experience
Of knowing how the business is. I think.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
Mahomes,
exactly.
Mahomes his dad's
there-
a professional athlete, and I think there's validity to that for sure.
He's a baseball player.
No,
He gets drunk.
No, there's two sides. There's two sides to that. Is my only piece and hesitation. So, for example, a lot of the times the dads, if you will, came from nothing and had to produce because that's the only way that they could get out of where they were at, right? So it was like just that burning drive to say, I will never fail. I will never go back there again. That is a different headspace, man. Like that is like you were in a different, like you're at a different level at that point. And now I do agree with you. I think they now know and understand the game. They understand the business. They have a deeper understanding of kind of those elements of it. So I do agree with you kind of in that element and that aspect. And frankly, Patrick Surtain on the Denver Broncos is actually a great example of that, right? But again, the reason why I did this was meant to be coin flip. I don't know if you can tell, but I think it is. It is literally a coin flip because the question is, do they have that pedigree? Plus, have they been able to manufacture a similar drive?
Right.
Because because daddy's got millions, so why do I need to then go get hit in the head playing football? Right? Like that's the problem.
I think it also, a big part of it too is also kind of like you said, it ties into like their drive. And I feel like while they don't have that drive of, I need to do this is like, it's football or bust, like this, I need to get my family out of, this terrible situation or whatever it may be. While they may not have that drive, they probably have a little bit of extra motivation to be like, you know what? I'm tired of being compared to my dad. I'm constantly getting, brought up. The comparisons are always going to be there just because of the name. So there is a little bit of extra motivation in that I'm my own person. I'm going to make a name for myself. I'm not going to live in the shadow of my father. So I
Pull it up. I know that'll rile Cap. My dog Nate Dog's in the house.
Kingdom. Stay within your own kingdom. That's all I'm going to say. Stay within your own kingdom.
Well, Captain,
but yeah,
Captain, in all fairness, every kingdom needs a court jester. And I think Chiefs Kingdom found theirs in Nate.
Which is another fantastic movie that these guys don't know about. Danny Kaye, look it up. Okay? Danny Kaye and the Court Jester. And if you don't know who Danny Kaye is, look him up too. My goodness.
I look up a lot of things
Good to
after
see
the
you,
show.
by the way, Nate.
So sorry, Robert, go ahead.
Well, hey, you're gonna thank me. You're gonna thank me because I'm getting you knowledge to making you more of an all-around person. Yes, thank goodness.
But no, yeah. So I think there's definitely, like you said, they don't have that motivation of getting their family out of, the football's the only way out. But I think the right ones have that motivation of, I'm going to make my own career. I may not be, as good as my dad. Some of these guys, they're Hall of Famers. So I'm not expecting that. I'm not saying we're going to get the next Frank Gore and his son, but just those intangibles, as you start getting into the later rounds of the draft, you start looking for those players that, they may not have the physical capabilities, but they have some of those intangibles, things that you look for in the locker room. So yeah, I think, with those two, I would love for the Chargers to go after them. Obviously, they went and got Gus Edwards, which I think was a good. I think it was a good signing for us. A solid replacement to Eckler, but I definitely think we need a running back by committee. We definitely need to draft at least one more. See if maybe we go after. There was rumors that maybe J.K. Dobbins was going to go to the Chargers just because they have that old connection. I don't see it happening. It
Getting
sounds
the guy
nice.
from Michigan.
Yeah, Blake Core. I know everybody
Best
says we're
running
getting.
back in the draft.
Yeah, so you know what? I'm good with taking Corum. I just don't want to spend anything higher than a 3rd round pick. That's the absolute most I'll spend on Corum. I don't want to use a 2nd round pick on a 24-year-old running back. I just don't.
Yeah.
Too bad, because your boss is going to trade high for him. I don't care what you want. It's what little Mr. Fancy Pants wants. So get it through your head. There you go.
Well, it's interesting you say that, Captain, because Harbaugh was quite public, and this is somewhat confirming a little bit of the initial rumors that came out both last week and the week before, that Harbaugh seems to be quite high on Fuaga as a right tackle for the Chargers. I am too, for my Denver Broncos. He is looking pretty darn spectacular as far as I'm concerned. And
you better get him with number 12, because he's going to be. If you don't get him, we will. But that's the point. That's the point. Yeah. If he drops to 12, which I doubt.
I don't think he will. But
I don't think he will either.
I don't think he will. But what Harbaugh said was, and it was a super interesting quote. I'm going to paraphrase a little bit here. He said, rebuilding teams, the number one position group that you should be focusing on is offensive line, because they are the only positional group that is completely independent of any other position group on the football field. Mm-hmm. And he said, for example, the offensive line gives the time for the quarterback to throw the ball. The quarterback being able to throw the ball allows both running backs and tight ends and wide receivers in order to both catch the ball and make plays. And on top of that, a really good offensive line allows your defensive line to stay rested on the sideline and recharge and come back out and play lights out. And so it's one of those really unique position groups.
Very well said, DZ.
Coach speech. Coach speak.
I don't know. I would argue that one little blip that he gave at that,
it's smoking mirrors, dude.
That's literally what I'm saying, Alex. Is all smoking mirrors.
I think he's really hyping up McCarthy so that all QBs go, and then he's at 5 and takes Harrison.
I literally said this exact same thing. This is the Harbaugh strategy. I'm gonna talk up all these guys, and because I have such good credibility, just coming off the national championship, on top of the NFL experience, I think it's absolutely the smart move. Why would you not want to talk into existence the one position you don't need at all on your team, so you have basically first pick of the draft? Because you're not taking, like, everybody knows Chargers aren't taking a quarterback, and the people that are coming in here saying, oh well, maybe they trade Herbert. Please stop. Just please stop. You're making yourselves look foolish. Just please don't even, like, come on. It's not even a discussion about Herbert getting traded.
You look foolish every time you put on a Charger jersey, so I don't want to go there. Okay, there you go. Remember, 2 months. Okay.
It's good to have you back. It's good to have you back, Cap. It's good to have you back.
Just let yourself open for that, Cap.
So yeah, I think it's definitely smoke and mirrors. I love Fuaga. I don't like him at 5. I feel like there's so much more value to get at 5, like one of these top wide receivers. It's not going to be Joe Alt. It's Joe Alt, sir, and it's not going to be Joe Alt.
Okay, his father.
John Alt's his dad.
Yeah, I knew who his father was. I apologize for knowing that crap. Okay.
Thank you, DZ. Having my back.
It's because I got my guns, baby. The kid doesn't even show his guns.
You got those water pistols?
Spindly arms. I'm gonna be 59 in 2 days. Okay, 59 in 2 days. And that's a nice looking arm for somebody who's 59 and hasn't worked out.
You didn't want to see that back in my day, son.
For somebody that doesn't work out regularly, that's a nice arm at 59. So screw you guys. There you go.
You're right.
Look, those arms lifted 225. I mean, at least 10 reps.
Oh, at least. Yeah.
And when I say 225, I mean $2.25.
Yeah. It was for you. It was 225 pounds, not that loony crap that you have up in friggin' the Great White North. 225 poundage. Okay. 225
Not
poundage.
kilos.
Yeah.
Not
So
kilos,
I'm
pounds.
gonna take on the Broncos running back room, which is gonna be an interesting one. Jumping off your comments
What?
there, Alex. Sorry, Robert and Alex, both of you kind of covering off your teams respectively. I think the Broncos are in an interesting spot. I think Javonte Williams underperformed last year, and he's in a little bit of a prove-it season this year because he did not come out the gate the way that I think we all expected. And as Broncos fans, if I'm going to be perfectly honest, we are genuinely concerned that he may never be the same guy again after his
Injury with the Raiders.
Yeah. I mean, he tore everything. He didn't just say it wasn't just like one. He tore all of the knee, basically. And
on a clean hit, by the way.
Yeah. Oh no, it was not a dirty hit. He just literally tore everything, and
it was a shame.
He didn't come back the way that we were hoping he would. And he is what makes his running style unique is he's a high collision running back where he actually seeks out the contact, and he just couldn't do it seemingly last year, and that's a bit of an issue. Samaje Perine was fantastic last year for us, really, as a running back. He did a great job, and I really think that he kind of almost outplayed where he was meant to be on the roster, and I think he kind of played himself into a bigger role, which is great. And then obviously we had Jaleel McLaughlin, who was kind of the star in the running back room, who kind of came out of nowhere and took the league by storm.
The arms of the angels, baby. The arms of the angels.
So we also happen to have a guy on
the baby.
Yeah, so we also happen to have a guy named Tyler Batty, who has played sparingly for us, but has done fairly well when he has been on the field. But aside from that, that's all we have in our running back room. And I really do think that there is room for someone to potentially bump Williams if they get drafted and they look good in preseason. And I also think that there is room for maybe someone to even also bump Tyler Batty as well, depending on skill sets. I think Peyton is looking for a type of guys that you guys were mentioning, which is a better blend of size and speed. And I think that when you have a reasonable complement of guys in that running back room, you can start being picky and targeting the type of running back that you're looking for. So I think a Pacheco style would certainly fit a Sean Payton offense.
Yeah.
And I also think that there is room for Sean Payton to bring back a style of running back that there was rumors that he was even targeting last offseason. And that is that kind of oversized kind of 6'3", 225 to 230 running back that Sean Payton has typically carried on his roster as well. The battering ram kind of style.
Latavius Murray.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I could
Raider.
see. Yeah.
Thank you. I was going to say that, but I appreciate you getting there. There you go.
The Broncos had him on our roster, and there was certainly rumors that when we let him go, that as soon as Peyton came back, there was rumors that he was going to be brought back on the Broncos roster because that's a Sean Payton guy, and we already had little Jordan Humphrey come back and all that kind of stuff. So I could see us targeting. We don't need the short, small, shifty style guy. We have Jaleel McLaughlin already. So I think we're going to be looking for the collision contact speed guy and the kind of battering ram to get it into the end zone style running back. And that's kind of what my prediction is for the Broncos running back room. With that in mind, though, they could just roll into this season with exactly what we have and kind of see where things play out. But
I like Javonte, dude.
Yeah, I like him too.
He was great. It's just, can he return to form? That is the question. And you have to be realistic. I mean, there is a reason why they have a short shelf life at the running back spot. And, this is what we were talking about with the hip drop tackle and the wrist.
The hip hop tackle.
Hip hop tackle. That's right.
Hip, don't stop.
Yep.
Okay, that one I know. That one I know. All right, we're right here. We're right here. I got you.
Hooray.
I'm like 1 for 7 today.
You're 1 for 9, man. You're one more, and you're batting below the Mendoza line. Look that one up, the Mendoza line.
Okay, I'm not. Listen, I'm young. I'm not stupid.
It's another baseball reference.
I just want to quickly
Yeah,
take
we
on
got that one. We didn't get the Eddie Gale midget that played one
Eddie Gale. Hey, for those that didn't know, I put up a link on my page. Okay.
Wikipedia.
Wikipedia. Look at the picture. Look at the picture.
I gotta look this. Yeah.
I want to address this comment real quick, Bishop. While I believe on paper it will certainly look like the Broncos are in steep decline, I do think that you also need to adjust some expectations. Sean Payton has seen a fair number of the guys in the locker room and has obviously purged some people that he felt that was not working within his system and were going to be conducive to the culture rebuild that needs to happen. And I think that he has kept and brought in guys that are fitting of the style of culture and grit that he wants on his roster. And with that in mind, I think the Broncos will surprise a little bit from what you're saying. I'm not saying we're going to the Super Bowl or deep in the playoffs or anything. I'm not an idiot, but I do think that the Broncos are going to surprise many this season, because most are predicting the Broncos to just tank. And I think that you're probably going to see a better team than you think on Sundays, because it's going to be a culture change on the Broncos roster this year. And some of those older veterans that I think that were maybe undermining the culture change a little bit, I believe they're not there on the roster anymore.
Over under 7.5 wins, Rich.
Over. Yeah, over.
Okay,
I see that.
Over.
Okay.
Now, and by the way, I'm not saying like into like the stuff there either.
It might be 8.
Teams, baby.
So slow your roll
Teams
in terms of misquoting me. Thank you very much. But
just gotta get AJ McCarthy.
Richie says 12 win season.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
That down.
Blast it.
Yeah. But I think what's important to note is we had a similar roster last year. Peyton was still trying to install an offense. He was limited based on what he can install with the quarterback and what the quarterback skill sets were. He's going to have a full off season to install what he wants to install with Jarrett Stidham and or a rookie quarterback, depending on which direction the Broncos end up going in. And I think
it's going to be the latter. Stidham is a nice plug and play, but he ain't your future at quarterback.
I hope they get
he may not be the long-term future, but the question is whether or not they go all hog wild after a quarterback this season, or whether or not they try to do team building this year and then go for a quarterback next year. That's really what I'm getting at with that comment. And so, in my opinion, you're going to see progress in certain aspects, and you might see some decline in others just based on skill sets that are on the roster. But overall, I think you're going to see a grittier team and likely and hopefully a more physical team than you saw last year, which will likely end up with a slight improvement over last season, but not a major one, because this is a kind of a stepping stone, if you will, for the Denver Broncos to get back to where we need to be.
Do you think QB for you guys in like the second round is on the board? I know we were talking about potentially trading up in the first round, but that's maybe looking a little bit not so much now. What about second round? You think you move up a little bit, try to take a quarterback, a project QB in the second?
I mean, maybe. I think if you take a project quarterback, you try to nab them in the natural round that they would have fallen to in the draft, and try to just simply build with them, assuming you want to give yourself as a coaching staff credit where you think you can build them up anyway. So right. I think if you get a quarterback that falls to the third that you think you can kind of build off of, or at least turn into a competent backup. But with that in mind, I think the Broncos are already seeing that and believe they have that on the roster with Ben DiNucci.
Hey, Benvenuti. Hey.
Yeah, like,
Hey.
Gabagoo.
yeah,
Gabadigoo. Hey.
yeah. I think Tannehill. And
Look at the good.
Hey,
I-
Bafango. I said it in Italian. It's okay.
I think Tannehill's on the table. I think there's a few other veteran quarterbacks that are still on the table for the Broncos to potentially look at. I think that they are going to be in steep competition, but I think they're going to ultimately end up getting cut. They'll be that third option kind of thing. I think that it's going to be more likely the Broncos are going to either put together a huge trade package. Just in full disclosure, Robert, and this is kind of where I'd be at with it, is if it were me, what I would rather see is the Broncos, if they're going to trade up to grab a guy, and because you need to trade up to grab a guy, I would rather trade away a guy like Pat Surtain now, get your 2 first-round picks as a credit for the one player, plus maybe like a little extra kind of
little sweetener.
Yeah. Go up higher in the first round and grab a quarterback, the quarterback into that top 3 to 4 range, as long as they're still there, and target that guy of the future. If you're not going to do something like that, keeping in mind that Surtain's due a very large salary because he is that good.
He's arguably the best in my opinion.
Yeah. And he's, unlike Snead, for example, Surtain has shown that he can be versatile in terms of what he can do and how he can cover. Snead seemed to be kind of narrowed in what he can do, which is why I think he kind of fell down the list in terms of pay scale. And I think there's a few guys when you can kind of just leave them alone. Surtain, I believe, is one of those guys. They're going to command a higher salary. And someone like Surtain, in my opinion, will be the guy that will reset the market, as an example, because of the skill sets that he has. But for me, a cornerback is the least of my concerns if I don't have a dude that can throw the ball and keep us in games. And I would also argue that an equally important position is a defensive lineman in the interior who can rush the passer, like a Chris Jones, for example, can as well. Those are 2 large position groups that we're missing. I'm also a fan of potentially trading away Garrett Bowles in the early rounds of this draft to then try to maybe get back into the latter rounds, or trade him away on draft day. Again, trying
to ham sandwich and a Coke.
Well, he's still a very serviceable left tackle, certainly within the top 32. I don't like him that much, but I do think that he's a starting left tackle in the league still. Whether or not I want him on my team or not, that's a different story, but I still do believe he's a starting left tackle.
Yeah, he's going to be devalued to be a right tackle because he was definitely all hyped. I remember when he was drafted, I thought, man, they got the guy, and he has not pinned. Garrett Bowles to you is like the Robert Gallery that we got, although Bowles played tackle. And Gallery actually showed a little bit of promise when they threw him inside with his pterodactyl T-Rex arms. Okay, the guard. Okay, Garrett Bowles is, but he was not all that. And I'm not crapping on you.
He's like 24, wasn't he, when he was drafted?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, I'm not crapping on you. He didn't show where he should have. That big star status of what the Broncos wanted him for. So yeah, don't. Trade him away, like I said, a ham sandwich, a Coke, maybe even a 50-cent hooker in Vegas. Do something like that for him, and then go from there.
How you just gonna casually drop that one?
Yeah. So
I gotta have some of the regular drops, guys. 2 months. 2 months.
Got to drop.
So I kind of disagree with that being his general trade value, obviously, but I because the left tackle and right tackle, frankly, in today's NFL, are still incredibly important positions on the line. But I do think that offensive center, for example, in recent years especially, has just vertical hockey stick curve in terms of importance in the NFL these days, given how good these interior linemen are. So anywho, with that in mind, Robert, to answer your question, is quarterback on the table round 1? Only in very, very specific and targeted situations in my mind. Otherwise, I think we would be much better off building and bolstering the roster, including the lines, in order to put ourselves in a position where we can afford to trade them picks, unlike in past years, to then obtain the quarterback that would best fit our team, and continue to roll with Stidham and DiNucci and just kind of get ourselves in that middle part of the league where we're not top 15, but we're not like bottom part of the league either. But then get ourselves to a spot. But then get ourselves to a spot where you can trade, 2 or 3 firsts and go right up into like number 1 or number 2 and grab your guy.
Who, if just really quick to ask you this one too, who is your guy? Like if you were to take a quarterback for the Broncos this year to trade up, obviously not counting Caleb because we're just assuming he's gone already at the first. Who's your guy to take at 2, 3, 4, wherever you guys decide to trade up to?
I think it's Nix is the 4-year starter in college, if I'm not mistaken. Which I know
Nix has the experience, but he wasn't a. He basically he was a
He was
starter at
Stidham's
Auburn.
backup, actually.
At Auburn.
He was a starter at Auburn, got crapped on, went to Washington, and redid his life. So he's an older guy with a lot of experience
Oregon.
starting. But there was.
I was going to say Oregon, right?
Yeah,
Oregon.
Auburn to Oregon.
Yeah. So I think that Nix could be a guy for the Broncos, although I think could be had a little further
I
down.
think you can get him second round.
Yeah, I was saying you don't got to trade up for him.
But I think if you're looking at the guys that are left, you'd be looking at May would be an interesting option, and then
Penix.
Penix. No, not Penix. The other guy,
Daniels.
And I think Daniels and May are interesting. Pardon me?
Yeah, but you're saying at 4, like you said, you're if you're saying 4, those guys, Daniels is probably out of the equation. Okay, they're even talking May being out of the equation because everybody's hyping up McCarthy now.
Yeah,
for a 2, and that's why it's all jumbled. It's like if McCarthy goes 2, that means that either Daniels or May is going to be there at 4. That's the question.
Right.
If McCarthy does go 2.
The point is, what normally plays out in the NFL draft is the early predictions are typically the ones that end up playing out more so on draft day because those were all based on college tape, and front offices are almost exclusively based on college film as the highest weight in terms of who they pick and why they want to pick them. The pro days and things like that, you sometimes get the flyers that certain GMs and certain front offices like to take, but those picks almost never actually turn out. They almost always tank and bomb, where they overdraft a guy in the first round or second round. And we saw a few examples of that over a few drafts ago, where certain teams
almost every draft.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So we saw a few dudes kind of get overdrafted and they really ought to have fallen to their natural round, which would have been maybe if they were picked in the first, they should have been a second round pick. If they're picked in the second, they probably shouldn't have been a third or a fourth. So we see that every year. And so in my opinion, you're probably going to see some variation of, it'll be Caleb Williams number 1, probably going to have Drake May going number 2. But then if you get that team that wants to trade up to get their guy, you're probably going to then end up with Daniels going 3.
McCarthy.
And then McCarthy probably as the 4th quarterback off the board. And so that's why Williams is off the board and it's kind of between those other 3 in terms of where the Broncos want to trade up for if they are going to go in that direction. And I believe that
this is a good one.
I love it. My number 1 bust is going to be Caleb Williams.
Damn it, Rich! I should have gone first. Damn it!
But hey, I've said that there's tape on that. I've said that.
I'm fully believe he's busting 100%. I'm on board.
I think Williams and May are the 2 that I think have the most bust potential.
My issue with Caleb Williams is he's coming into the league with a bit of a Baker Mayfield attitude.
Yes.
And what I meand by that is he's coming in with for those of you who don't know the term, it's a fig jam attitude. I'll only repeat the latter part of what that acronym is.
I know what fig jam stands for.
So it's I'm good, just ask me and I'll let you figure out the F. And so with regards to Williams, he seems to just think that, he's just above the fray, that he's his own brand, and he's maybe above the brand of the team he's going to be drafted to. That's how he's presenting himself in terms of some of the actions and statements that are being made, at least on his behalf. And I think that's a concern. And so with that in mind, with that in mind, I think he certainly has legit bust potential. And he's also potentially not going to an organization that's had a tremendous track record as of late, developing people and doing well. So I think that's one. And then the other one, I agree, could be May, although I think May has a little bit of like a Herbert kind of thing to him for me.
Where, I don't know. But so did Mitch Trubisky. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
Same
but
school.
right, but to me, to me, May is going to be that really interesting prospect. I agree, he has the potential of being an outright bust, but so did Herbert. And then the question is, can you immediately come out the gate and elevate, or are you going to come out the gate and tank? And I think May is kind of the Herbert of this draft. He's going to make or break right off the top.
Yeah, I think if May goes to Washington, it might be a better situation for him than if he were to go to New England. So right now, New England is just a barren wasteland. I don't even know what direction they're going in.
Yeah.
Like they're probably the worst team in the league. Just not, and I know Carolina's bad, but I mean, at least Carolina, quote unquote, has their QB. New England's got nothing right now. So I feel like, and we talked about this before, where you get drafted is way more important than when you're drafted. So I think, like you said, if May goes to New England, I think he busts. But I think if he goes to Washington, and that's crazy to say because Washington is not necessarily known for being a great franchise either, I think he succeeds there just because they have more pieces around him to work with. They may have blown all their money in free agency, but now you can't say that you don't have talent for that new quarterback you're bringing. I'm assuming they're bringing in a quarterback. There's no way you're picking at two and you don't bring in one.
Yeah.
So,
and they got rid of Howell.
yeah, and they got rid of Howell. So it's gonna be very interesting. I think that pick right there at number 2 is when it's gonna all kick off, because if they shock everyone and take J.J. McCarthy at number 2, then I think Denver starts calling up Arizona immediately, and they're like, hey, we want to move up. Because either Jaden Daniels or Drake May is going to be there at 4, and we need that. And it's time to make the move.
Yeah, I think that's true. And so those are who I think is going to potentially bust at that position. I truly have number 1 as Caleb Williams, and I see that as very much like a Jamarcus Russell style, I'm that good, sort of player, or even a Baker Mayfield, who I have to give credit for.
Yeah.
Went through all of the turbulence in his career and had to go to a low, and is now humbled and is now starting to kind of have a bit of a career resurgence, which is good for him. Like, good for him. I never want to see someone fail. So good for him for having the self-awareness to kind of bounce back. But I mean, if we're going to be honest, the first block of his career was not great.
Yeah, he got benched for Sam Darnold in Carolina. It don't get much more lower than that in your career.
No. So with regards to the last team in the AFC West, to talk about the running back captain, I'm going to throw over to you. Obviously, with the departure of
who? Oh, this guy. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah. Yes.
Can you see it? Can you see it? 28-8.
Yeah.
I got his glove somewhere too. I got a pair of 8 gloves.
Yeah. So obviously with him departing, and I mean, my feelings on him have not been shy. I saw him as an absolute top tier running back in the league, and he certainly killed the Broncos every time we played him. So,
right. A lot of teams.
Where are you at? Where are you at now in terms of your running backs? What do you expect to see, and so on and so forth?
Well, again, we wanted to re-sign Josh Jacobs. We did, and you can hear that with the way that AP was talked about. Said that one hurt, and I think that it's not a smokescreen when he said that one hurt. But, if you're going to Green Bay for, what was it, 12, 24, 48 million, good for you. Kind of like, Smug up there was talking about Snead going to where he's going. He got paid. Good for him. Good for Josh in the fact that he got paid, and good for him that he's out of the AFC. So we won't see him very often unless we're playing him in a rematch of Super Bowl II. Actually, technically the AFL NFL Championship, Robert, another thing that was before you.
Oh, I know about that. All right,
Okay,
you're talking football now.
But it wasn't the Super Bowl until Super Bowl III. Okay, just so you know, another bit of wisdom and facts for you schmucks out there. Okay. Anyway, thing is that Josh, and I said I got a lot of Josh stuff. Great guy, and good for him. But he just costs too much, and we want to make sure that we have a roster that is built up that will be a lot better than what friggin' Robert was talking about last week when he was on his show with Angelo, because Robert doesn't know shit. Okay, that's my highlight curse word, Richie. Other than that, I'm not going beyond that. But here's the thing: the Raiders are going to go RBC, running back by committee. They did pick up a replacement, which was the triangle trade of Jacobs goes to the Packers, Jones goes to the Vikings, and Madison comes to the Raiders. So it was a triangle trade. It wasn't a trade. But that's just the way it worked out. Raiders, the Packers.
One went over and the rest shuffled deck.
Yeah, there you go. But we do have Zamir White, who ran over the Chiefs on Christmas Day. So he's gonna be that guy that's gonna be the lead guy. And we re-signed Amir Abdullah, which was a good signing because the guy can block and run and catch. So that's a good thing to have in a running back. Those are going to be our two primary backs. We did have Sincere McCormick, who's still on the roster, who I'm still waiting on him to be that guy. The guy is, one cut and gone that you want to have in one of your running backs being that way. He's still on the roster. Britton Brown, who was like a 7th-round draft pick a couple years ago, who's had some problems getting healthy, is still on the roster. This is going to be his make or break year to see if he actually sticks around, because again, he's a 7th-round back, bigger kid out of UCLA that can be that big bulky guy, kind of like that what Peyton was looking for. He's a plugger, and you need that. The Raiders got rid of the fullback because they were one of the few teams that actually used the fullback. They got rid of our fullback, then they re-signed our fullback. Yeah, but they're going without a fullback because Getsy is not a fullback guy. He's a 2-back guy. If you're going to have 2 backs in the backfield, one of them's not a fullback. Obviously, as far as the other running backs, signing Madison is a good plan. Abdullah, gotta love him. With Sincere, great. There's another kid by the name of Tyreek McAllister, 1-year guy I think he's out of, was it Chattanooga? I actually had to look this up because I'm like, who the hell are our running back? Oh, Charleston. I knew it was a cha. So that's our running back. And there will be, and I've seen plenty of mocks, the Raiders getting a running back of consequence, whether it's a slash guy, whether it's a fast guy, but there's going to be a running back drafted. And remember, guys, it's the draft, but it's after the draft. The guys that didn't get drafted that turn out to be those guys that really make your football team, kind of like Terrell Davis we were talking about earlier. He wasn't drafted, or if he was drafted, it was a lower round. But the guys that don't get drafted that become a mainstay on your roster. So there are plenty of guys like that will make the team. So it's going to be a good plan. The Raiders are going to be going RBC, running back by committee. That's a good thing. They saved a lot of money on not re-signing Jacobs. They wanted Jacobs, but they got a lot of money or more money to spend. And for all you schmucks that are saying that they overpaid for Wilkins, it's what the market was. You pay for what the market was. And Wilkins, and again, I have tape on this before it was signed too. I said, don't go after Chris Jones. I said, if you get him, great, but make sure you have Wilkins as your backup plan. So I was a Nostradamus. Nostradamus is a very smart guy in the long term. Many years ago, Robert, look him up too. Okay, I was a Nostradamus on talking about Christian Wilkins. So it'll be good. And not only did they sign Wilkins, they got Jenkins and the other guy that played with him. Not Farrell. Yeah, there's three guys that played in Miami in that defensive line under Graham. So they already have that rapport together on the defensive front. Raiders are good in the they're decent in the running back room. I know I'm a little bit off key here, but there will be some additions, and I'm not worried about it. I'm worried about who's going to be QB1 and QB2, and the Raiders will draft a quarterback this year, but I don't think it's going to be there. I don't think they're going to go up for him. I think that the Raiders, if they do something like I want this quarterback, are going to do something like the Ravens did a couple years ago by going in and getting at 30-31, getting the guy they want, getting that extra year as well. So you get a 5-year deal on him with that option and getting the QB that they want and not waiting for have him drop into the second round. But that's a little bit of just an offshoot there. And again, Robert, if you think that the Chargers are better than the Raiders after all of this, God, dude, submit yourself for a urinalysis, man, because you must be on Molly and LSD and purple microdust and all this other crap. My God, I'd see you in Los Angeles when I get out there for my tour, but you probably wouldn't be able to get in your car and figure out where the hell I am because I'm kind of confused here. I don't know what's going on. So I'm just saying, first off,
you're feeling really good about that 63-point win against a backup, huh? Was that you guys' Super Bowl too?
No, our Super Bowl was on Christmas Day. Thank you.
That's right. I apologize. That's right.
Okay. There you go.
You're not even the last team to win in your own stadium. That must be pretty upsetting.
Well, whoever was in the stadium was going to be the last team to win in that stadium. Come on, schmuck, use your head. The Super Bowl was in Vegas. Okay?
All I'm saying is the Chiefs have won in your stadium before you have.
I had no aspirations of being in the Super Bowl this year. Look on the tape. I didn't say we were going to host our Super Bowl.
Apparently the team didn't either with the way they performed.
Says the smart ass from LA who has no clue. No clue. No clue. My God, no clue. So anyway, and I
a little bit of breaking news, Rich. I figured you'd like. I know DZ's already mentioned it, but confirmed Chiefs signed that Welsh rugby player.
Yep.
Zamit.
$8 million, 1 year, $8 million, if I'm not mistaken.
Running back, wide receiver hybrid. Be interesting to see what how they use them. But
hold on.
For these like the kickoff rules.
That's exactly it. That's exactly what I was going to say.
Baby.
That's your guy. So what is the one thing? You have a very narrowed space. You're going to be super close together
to the pixie to the thumb. Right here, here. Yes, that's your prize.
No, but that's exactly it. Is that you got a guy who's used to running between tackles, breaking tackles, and dragging guys, and escaping and getting downfield and going for the try. It's a fantastic signing. And so then again, what is the skill set? What's your skill set? Well, rugby is designed in terms of how the sport works is to shimmy, shake through people and being able to get through those small spaces to try to drag guys and move the chains. He's a perfect signing for a kickoff.
Only 22 as well. Yeah. That's kind of dang. Wow. That'd be cool. It'd be cool to see what happens.
Well, actually, the bigger question is whether or not he can run in pads. I can say that it is a much different experience putting on full pads and running in them than not, and kind of shimmy by not having those extra pads on you. So it'll be very interesting to see how he handles the additional pads.
We're in a 4-4-3.
He's going to be like the guy in Unnecessary Roughness, like pads. Oh, I'm not a Sheila. I don't need that.
Yeah. So that'll be an interesting that'll be an interesting signing to see how he transitions from rugby into football, and whether or not he can actually adapt to wearing pads and having kind of the helmet on and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's a completely different sport. There's no doubt that he can absorb a hit. That's not the question. The question is whether or not he can adapt to being able to run at speed and not slow down with the additional padding and with the additional required game equipment.
Helmets.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you have a much narrowed vision because you're used to having nothing, and now you have this like little, it's a lot different. But one thing you do know is he can absorb a hit and be perfectly fine.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've seen rugby players come in and play really well. I mean, Mylato is obviously the big one on the Eagles. I mean, O-line is a little bit easier to make that transition. I know you were talking about mobility. So you obviously on the O-line, there's not too much of that, at least. So him on the O-line, I mean, there is
transition. That's a way transition because you're talking to a guy from a scrum who's used to pushing guys. That's a way easier transition in my opinion, because you're not restricted. Like you almost feel more invincible wearing all those pads as a guy in a scrum. Speaking from a guy who was in the scrum. If I transitioned to the NFL and was like a tight end or a tackle moving to the NFL level, I'd be laughing, man, because I mean, I literally feel invincible.
Jack, it's your own player, but it's Wilkins, not Wilkerson.
Yeah.
But it's definitely Chris Jones.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Jack Kenna, I'm sure will put some money on it, and you guys can. I will be the arbiter. I will hold the money so that it's a real bet. Okay, and I will pay off whoever wins at the end of the season. It depends. And he's got. Hey, Jack, he's got money. He's a lawyer. Okay, so yeah, put some decent money on it. And I'm gonna call. But one last. Oh shit! I lost my train of thought.
Yeah. So the one thing, Jack, I just will say is I understand that your D line for the Raiders has improved this year, and it has, and you have someone else to pair with Crosby, so that's great.
Better than the Garglers.
That's great, but I think the one thing that a lot of people didn't give the Chiefs credit for last season was, and you're gonna have hopefully one of your other guys come back healthy, is they had a pretty good pass rush with Karlaftis.
Yeah, Karlaftis was the steal of that draft. Pacheco and Karlaftis in that draft were steals.
Yeah.
See, I actually know stuff, Smug. So there you go.
I know.
I was at that draft.
Wasn't that the draft you guys got McDuffie too?
Yes.
Jesus Christ. Why?
Yeah. No, Karlaftis was the year before, but they got McDuffie and Pacheco in the same draft.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's what it was. All right.
But the whole point is you look at what the Chiefs have stacked up over the last little bit, and they have added the right depth in the right spots to allow them to progressively build their team the right way, and they can move on from a guy like a Snead and go get a guy in this year's draft, and as long as they do all right, they'll be fine.
If they go get Kool-Aid McKinstry, I might cry.
Yeah,
because that move for them to move up and take him is very realistic for them, because that is probably like their last big position that they need to fill. Obviously, not losing Snead.
Yeah, and then they have him on a cost-controlled contract.
Because they got this next year. You got Creed Humphrey, Nick Bolton, Trey Smith, like a lot of big contributors coming up. So
McDuffie and Pacheco aren't that far off either. So yeah. To have that 4 years of control, not having to pay him much, is definitely going to be terrifying if that happens.
I agree. Well, guys, we've kind of covered a lot of ground on the show here. We're going to call it an evening and thank everyone for joining us here on the Wild Wild West. We're going to have a whole bunch of new stuff for you next week, including we're going to eventually get into a bit of a mock draft at some point as we solidify our rosters and kind of get into the last part of free agency here.
I still got bile. Trust me. Come back next week and the week following. I got lots more, especially for that frigging kid there. And you, zero penalties on the offensive line. Give me a friggin' break. Rigged.
Right. So it sounds like someone hasn't gotten over the Super Bowl yet.
Oh, hell no. No. And I'm going on a road trip, and I will make sure I try to in a Wi-Fi area because I'm going from Florida to California and back.
Coming to my neck of the woods.
Yeah, that's why I said. So if you know how to do directions, Robert, we might be able to meet up. Okay, in this way, we'll have met everybody. But yeah, I'm going from Florida to California and back. I don't know how long and where. I'm bringing all my gear for the draft with me in case I don't make it home in time, so I can go from the other city to the draft and back. So I will hopefully be where there's Wi-Fi, or I will use my cell phone. And yeah, I'm here. I still got bile. I got bile, baby. And it's not Simone Biles because she's pretty cute, but I got regular bile. Okay? Regular bile.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, with all that in mind, I'd like to thank you all for joining us again on the Wild Wild West. We are going to be back next week with a bunch of brand new topics and more information for you on our division. A look ahead, continue review of our rosters and captain with his stomach bile as he's figuring it all out.
We'll have a bile update.
Yeah, a bile update for sure. And ladies and gentlemen, until next week, where the West Side is the best side. Peace.
In the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Simpo's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast racking up the flame out. So high, I might never come down, so what? This is my lifestyle. Wait a minute.